Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Chuck Hogan, and welcome to Your Best Life. Welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. When you download, make sure that you rate and leave a comment. The app is completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku TV sticks, and all TVs 2016 and forward. So thank you for joining us tonight. We have a special treat for you. This evening, we are going to be diving deep into what really wealth is. And wealth is your health. Bottom line, if you do not have your health, you are suffering through your existence. And so with us tonight, I have a dear friend. He is not only a bastion of changing the world to be a better place through eliminating sugar and people's addiction to it, but also really formulating within yourself a better way of connecting to your body by eating healthy things that actually fuel you, feed you, and that historically have been proven to give you longevity, life, increase your not only life expectancy, but also diminish inflammation, pain, and give you more health and vitality. So I ask you to welcome my dear brother, Dr. Guillermo Navarrete, otherwise known as Dr. G. Good evening, my friend. How are you, brother?
I am thrilled to be again with you one more year.
Listen, man, you know, that's the deal. It's like the Benjamin Button syndrome, right? It's getting younger every year, so there's more health and vitality. So we get to have even more fun together, my friend.
I'm ready. Thank you for having me once again.
It's a pleasure, brother. It's a pleasure. And so I'm just going to ask the obvious. So I'm sitting here in all this expanded light, and you are in that beautiful space that is your home and your office. And I'm looking at it going, okay, why does he look like he is this beautiful shade of rosé? And so, Dr. G, can you share with the audience one of the reasons why you are bathed in this particular hue of light?
Oh, of course. Just in case someone is thinking that I'm on a club or I have some naked girls around. No, it's just the way we should live when it's dark outside. So if we go back thousands of years, the only way that we could be watching something after sunset is that we did a fire, right? And
Yes.
if you're on the cave and you do the fire, guess what will be the color of the walls and the cave itself? It will be this color. So our eyes, our skin has been for thousands of years watching this color after sunset. And this is the right way to tell your body you're preparing to sleep. The opposite would be just having regular lights, which I have for most of my life, and that destroys your circadian rhythms because it's telling your body what, so that is another time than what it really is. So if it's 9 p.m. and you turn on the lights, your brain, your eyes, your skin can feel the light. That's how the body knows what time is it. And based on that, the body will create some substances, some hormones, some metabolites in the morning, at the middle of the day, and at the end of the day. And you want the right metabolites being released by the body because the body knows what time is it. And if you put regular lights at 9 p.m., your body will think it's midday, it's noon. And what do you have at noon? You're hungry. And then you will be hungry at 9 p.m.
Sure.
And you're not ready to eat at 9 p.m. as soon as you don't want to disrupt your circadian rhythms and have the worst sleep ever. And then people have heartburn during sleep and they have bad sleep. They don't even measure sleep and they want to improve it. So to improve sleep, the best thing you can do is watching the sunrise every day, exposing yourself to the light, to the sunlight at the middle of the day, watching the sunset also. So you will have the whole adjustment. And then during nighttime at home, just be ready to turn the regular bulbs for red bulbs, and then you will have a great life and a great longevity.
Now, I appreciate that. It's interesting. I know that there are environments that actually have to use different types of manipulation, like folks in Alaska, when they have perpetual light, They actually have blackout curtains. They actually have red lights in the rooms, different things like that, so that they actually know when to go to sleep. The opposite is Las Vegas, where they never turn the lights off. So that way you can gamble and stay up all night and live in an altered state. I think the strangest part about that is everyone's sleeping by the pool during the day. And so it's a very different existence, to your point. And thank you for that clarification, because there's natural things that we can do that seem unnatural. Because most people, like what's normal for you in your world, in your environment, is having these red lights in a space. And for the average person that is been miseducated or is living a different level of existence, they have a different engagement strategy that they use.
Because we are in that paradigm shift that
Yes.
we have realized that one of the stressors for the body that was driving a speed up process in our so we get old faster when we
Yes.
get exposed to that artificial lights, and probably we are the first ones doing that change and the first one exposing that and teaching that to doctors and to other healthcare professionals that started using it. But it's that paradigm shift because we now know, and we didn't know before, because the regular bulbs, the incandescent bulbs that we used to, you remember when you and me were children, that just taking that bulb out needed like 20 minutes of the lights being off because it was burning, right?
Yes.
Now bulbs will not burn because they took out the infrared spectrum of the light.
Yes.
Which was the only protection that we had in those incandescent bulbs from 30 years ago to artificial light. So when you respect infrared and those are burning, those are not that bad for us. That's why our grandparents and our parents did not have the impact that we have now after we started using LED lights with no infrared that are cool all the time, but they are not cool for your metabolism. They are killers.
Well, and I can only imagine why now there's such a pervasive level of degenerative eye disease, because everything is being fueled by LED lights, and under the auspices that it saves energy, it saves cost. And so people, everything, it comes down to money. And this is one of the things, unfortunately. So when people don't understand the science behind it, they use things indiscriminately, and it ends up costing them more money in the long run. To your point, it's I remember as a child, I loved seeing the sunrise and I loved watching sunsets. And there was just something that was nurturing and wholesome, and feeling the warmth on your face, watching it as it crested over the horizon, if it was the beach, whatever the case might be, or even sitting behind the mountains or the trees. And it really kind of ushered in the evening where now you could actually be calm and centered and slow down. And now it's, you and I have attended so many, I'll say, self-help development events where you're going 14 hours a day and you end at 2 a.m. and you're like going, hey, how do you going? You're on a high and on a low, right? Because your adrenals are so fatigued at that point. And what do? It's not, you don't just do it one day. On the small events, you do it 3 to 4 days, and on the long ones, you do it 6 days. And it's like going, so no wonder people are getting stressed when they fly home, and they're wondering why it takes them 2 weeks to recover.
Yeah. And I remember those Tony events, the Tony Robbins events, with thousands of people in that event, in that room for 6 days in a row, for 14 hours, lights, sound. You don't even blink because you want to get everything out of it.
Yes.
But then at the end, and I remember particularly one in Vegas, you said before, that after that, everybody got sick. And they call it Tony's flu. Because everybody at the end of the event got the Tony flu. But it wasn't the Tony flu. It was just the circadian rhythm being disrupted as hell. So your body does not know what time is it anymore. And that's a problem. Remember, when you have a job, even if you are the best in your office, the best in your company, if you don't go away too fast, you're going to get fired.
Yep.
Because it's not what you do. You need to do what you do at the right time.
Yes.
You cannot arrive there at noon and say, oh, but I did the job. Yeah, you did the job, but you're fired. Because rules say that when you're here and you need to do that, you need to do that with someone else next to you, because the actions of those guys depend on you too being here. And there's some hormones that needs to be released at the right time in the morning for you to have the right ones in the night. So we used to think that we just had melatonin because the pineal gland releases it if we see the sunrise, if we see the sunset. But now we know there's a daylight melatonin and a nighttime melatonin. And that nighttime melatonin that we thought we knew about is 10%. The 90% of the melatonin in the body is daylight melatonin. It's in every single cells, and it depends on the sunrise, not in the sunset. So now we're fucked, because we know that we need to do both, sunrise and sunset. And if you don't take light at the middle of the day, noon to 1 p.m., 2 p.m., you won't have vitamin D either. So the whole spectrum of the sun will be changing during the day. And that's how everybody knows what time is it. If you ask me what time is it, I will check out the phone and say, hey, it's this time. Because I have a phone. The body doesn't have a phone, has a sun. and if you don't expose the body, the eyeballs to the sun, your body will never know what time is it. It will be always fooled by artificial light.
You know, I remember you mentioning that in the Blue Zone, concepts, that Spain has become a leader in this area. And I was thinking about it, and I said, it makes sense, because siestas are like a sacred thing. And so honoring the body, honoring those cycles of sleep, honoring the rest, honoring slowing down, and those resets make a huge difference in relation to how you relate to yourself. And I was like going, wow. Plus, coupled with the concept that the happiness quotient, right? Like this happiness formulation. How can you take a population that, not everyone, but that they drink and they smoke, and you're like, okay, how can this be good for people? They go, because they're happy.
One, because we're happy. Two, we are happy because we have a very, very prolific social life.
Yes.
So we like to smoke. There was an article in Time magazine called, that was the title, the headline of the article. They smoke, they drink. So why are the Spanish living so long? That was the headline that you can check on Google and find the article. And they said, yeah, they smoke, but they smoke with friends.
Yes.
While having fun. They don't smoke at home, and they drink, but they don't drink home. Like people in the north, in Finland and all these places, they get drunk and they commit suicide and have domestic violence and car accidents. We don't have that. Of course, we have car accidents, but we drink with friends. We don't drink home alone like alcoholics. So
in excess, right?
Yeah, in excess. So we sometimes drink in excess, but with an excess of friends also. So that means that when that joy seems to be something that some kind of forgiveness for the damage that some other substances could make. And the sunlight is also a thing. And what you mentioned about the siesta,
yes,
we have a very particular time that we work. So in Spain, you start working at 9 to 1. And at 1:30, every single business close doors till 5. So at 1:30, 2 p.m., you need to go home, eat. Of course, you can eat anywhere around it, but everybody likes to go home, eat home, and then go back to work at 5 p.m. That every business will open until 8:30 or 9. So you have just 20 minutes or 30 minutes to have a little sleep. And that first 20 minutes of sleep is the time that the body will fix the most necessary things to fix. So we are restricted because we need to go to work again. And that 20 minutes is a secret. As soon as you make those 20 minutes 45, 50 minutes or 60 minutes, you lose the benefits of the siesta. So
Mm.
it's a very particular thing we had that made us do it that way. And people would love, you would be surprised how people will love to just sit on the sun, under the
Yes.
sun, and have that siesta for 20 minutes under the sun. You
Yes.
cannot see this in Miami. Here,
No.
people hate the sun. They hide from the sun. How can you hide yourself from the most prolific energy machine in the universe? You need to get that. But
Well,
we have been fooled to think that sun is dangerous for us.
well, the misconception, right? It's the same thing with eating animal protein. There's so many people that espouse to a vegetarian lifestyle, and some do very well for a period of time, and then they start to have ailments or challenges. Others who start to co-blend dieting, where they will go ahead and take in a modest amount of carbohydrates, or they have the misconception, as many people do, that like if I have to pick between white rice and brown rice, that the brown rice is better for me. And they're like going, actually, it's not. In fact, if you look at most Japanese, if you look at most Asian cultures, they don't eat brown rice at all.
No, at all. And they have been eating white rice for a long, long time. And of course, if you see the diabetes numbers in China, they have more diabetes than even the US or Mexico. But it's not for the rice. They have been eating rice for decades without diabetes. But when
Yes.
you add all the things, then the rice becomes worse.
Yes.
Because you are abusing carbohydrates and you are not in ketosis anymore. And the same way someone can come to this world in ketosis, because that's our original state. When we, after birth, we keep ourselves into ketosis and using fat and ketone bodies for fuel, not sugar, as soon as we are breastfed. When
Yes.
we start eating other things, then we start using sugar and not fat, which is not optimal. In China, someone that eats the right way, eat not too many times a day, can stay in ketosis even using rice, because they don't eat the rice while they cook it. They sometimes put it away, put it in the fridge, and consume it the other day. So the starch becomes resistant starch and is not metabolized as a carbohydrate, but as a more like a fiber. So it will not spike your blood
Yes.
sugar the same way. So they have been the same way Italians do with the pasta. They do it different. It's not the same pasta that they eat here in the US. It's not made the same way. It's not cooked the same way. And as you said at the beginning, is the environment which determines your health. And that environment is determined by the light more than the food. So if you see populations that are and live under the sun, under sunlight, mostly during the day, they can eat carbohydrates without a problem.
Sure.
Because vitamin D and insulin will be controlled when vitamin C is up. When vitamin D is up, insulin is controlled. When vitamin C is down, insulin will start creating insulin resistance and problems. So sunlight is better than food. So if you take the right sunlight exposure, you will be able to eat more stuff without getting sick. If you're not getting enough sunlight or you're getting too much artificial light, get ready for doing a perfect diet or you're going to get sick.
Well, you and I have had many conversations about this, and one of the things that is undeniable is the amount of childhood diabetes and I'll just say malnutrition that's occurring to children. And people are like going, yeah, why is that? And I said, well, look at what they're being fed in the schools. Look at what they're being fed in general. That's a lot of processed foods. It's not natural. It's not organic. In many instances, and depending on where you go, if they are not in an affluent area, they have a hard time getting high quality protein. And so that can be challenging as well, because if you feed grains to a chicken or to cattle, then you are what you eat. by comparison to free range or grass fed. And that, I don't know if many people understand why. So I was hoping that we could discuss this, because if you're going to spend your money someplace, it's better to spend it on proteins that are healthier, or I'll say that are more wholesome, and eat less of it, but eat high quality.
Yes, because we are not just what we eat, we are what we ate. So
Yes.
if we eat a chicken that ate right, we will be better than if we eat a chicken or a cow or a pork that ate wrong. And when I say wrong, I mean we of course, if you raise chickens and you sell those chickens by the pound, you will want to have fat
Fat
chickens,
chicken. Right.
porks, and fat cows. So universities all over the world, and that happens here in Florida with the University of Miami, they are always trying to find a way to create hybrids or some kind of breeds, they call it like that, breeds of cows that can get fatter and be more profitable for raisers. So it becomes a business and more people makes money and it's sustainable and the price is right for the consumer. And it's a complicated thing because the USDA controls the prices, the daily prices of the beef.
Yes.
People think it's just the farmer. No, it's not the farmer. They are controlled. So
Yes.
and of course the offer and demand and all that kind of stuff is important. But what you need to understand is that a chicken eats natural things. A chicken will never go to a crop field and eat the corn. But if you give them cornmeal, of course they'll have it. They're not stupid. If it's easy, they'll eat it. But they eat worms. They eat other animals. They eat, I don't know, crickets. They eat snakes.
Yes.
So is the only animal that snakes are afraid of. Chickens, hens, and
Yep.
because they love eating snakes. And when you see cows, same thing. They are made for eating grass. The pork, same thing. They are made for being in pastures and do their own thing with food. But we feed them corn and soy, and then we become inflamed because that corn and that soy have omega-3 and for omega-6, sorry, which is inflammatory. But what you
Yes.
said about children is even more critical because children are now in probably in the worst scenario that we have ever had for raising children. And sugar is everywhere. We give them sugar as a prize when it's a punishment for their bodies. And
Right.
at the end of the story, you don't have education. They are bombed. They have like a whole bunch of things being pushed from TV, everywhere in the street. My boy that has 4 years, so a 4-year-old boy for 3 days in a row is coming home with a bag full of sweets.
Yep.
And the teacher knows perfectly who I am and what I do. And she still, so if she still gives candy to my son, what can happen in other people's families
Oh,
when they will probably get a bigger bag full of more and more sweets. And
well,
you give
and
if
and
you
there's
give
peer
sweets,
pressure, right? Right. There's peer pressure because they get educated. It's like Tony the Tiger, Frosted Flakes. It's like all these cereals.
you know what a little pig eats? You know those little pigs
Oh,
when they
yeah,
raise, how do you call that?
sucklings.
Yeah, the sucklings. So the manufactured food for sucklings is made out of two basic things. 55% is skim milk powder,
Yep.
and 35-40% is cornmeal.
Yep.
What are we been feeding our children for the last 40 years? Skim milk
Cereal. Yep.
and corn flakes. So we have been feeding Suckling. How do you call it? Sucklings.
Sucklings. Yep. Piglets.
We have been feeding the same to pigs and to children. Of course they are
Yep.
fat. Of course they are obese. Of course they have diabetes because we treat them like porks.
Well, it's interesting because when we start to look at this, and I remember as a kid what we ate in Japan. And granted, I grew up here in the United States, but my mother literally was following more of a Asian diet. So we would have like a Japanese breakfast. You'd have miso soup. You would have, rice with it, but you would have, the seaweed and the fish cake and everything else together. And it's like, okay, this is amazing. And
It's a blessing.
so, it was a blessing. And then there's the Irish side of the family, and they're going, oh, you have oatmeal.
Ugh.
No, right, exactly. Now, my mother, at least in her infinite wisdom, it was steel cut oats, and she would soak them overnight and do different things. She also made her own granola, which was awesome as a kid. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is everything is so processed now. Everything is like, oh, just have a bar. Oh, just have this drink. Oh, just, And so when you look at even athletes in today's day and age, what are they drinking? Power drinks. They're drinking, things with electrolytes, but they're not natural electrolytes. They're all metabolized. They're all altered. And we're wondering why people are getting headaches and dizziness, and they're drinking what's supposed to be a hydrating drink, but they're getting dehydrated. And even to the point of water now. It's like, okay, what kind of container are you drinking out of? They go, oh, I only drink bottled water. And I go, with all the microplastics and the BPA in it and everything else, and they're going, oh, well, is that a problem? And I go, I don't know. Do you glow in the dark? Because at this point, everything that we are experiencing is the culmination. And a friend of mine named Clark Bartram, he's 60 years old, amazing shape, eats Mediterranean diet, very healthy guy, and yet he contracted prostate cancer. Mm. Now, people go, that's, how? Well, I'm going to remind everyone, stress is indiscriminate. Stress does not choose whether or not you're stressed out or not. Stress it's an opportunistic, I'll say, state of being that unfortunately many people don't know how to deal with stress. And to your point, the happiness quotient, the happiness formula, and connecting with people is actually the kryptonite to stress. Love and connection, and being able to, to not just survive, right, Guillermo? It's about thriving. It's about, are you eager to live each day to its fullest? That's one of the reasons why the show's called Your Best Life, not, oh, your life sucks, or, it's an okay life, or let's just get by. No, it's called Your Best Life. If you're going to live life, live it and appreciate it. What would you say if they were going, okay, so you're not supposed to eat any vegetables, you're not supposed to eat any fruit, you're supposed to just stay in a state of ketosis the entire time and just eat animal protein?
You need to prioritize. And as soon as you know what to prioritize, you can live longer and better and have more energy. One of the biggest problems right now when you have people coming to the clinic is 8 out of 10 tells you that they don't have energy or they don't feel enough energy. How can you be fulfilled? How can you have your best life without energy? You can't. You will feel miserable. You can have everything and still feel miserable. So what do you need, or what do we know? Because that's not an opinion. If it's an opinion, it's an opinion of the body and of ourselves. They can have an opinion because they are subject to something we call evolution. And evolution is a winner. You cannot discuss, you cannot debate with evolution, is what it is. You cannot feed a cat what you want. You cannot say, oh, okay, let's get that kitty and let's feed it lettuce and tomatoes. That cat is gonna get sick and die. You cannot decide what a cat eats. So you cannot decide what a lions eat. They are designed for eating something because for most of their lives, they have eaten that thing. So if you want to feed me tofu, you will have a hard time convincing me because my ancestors did not eat tofu at all. And when you go back, you need to eat what your ancestors ate. So
Yes.
when you think about it, the only food on the planet that you can find anywhere in the planet, it doesn't matter when you are, you will always find meat and fish.
Yep.
Always, anywhere on the planet, meat, fish, and eggs. That has always been food for us. And then plants have been always medicine, not food. Plants have been food for people that didn't have animals. So those have been survival foods. And you need to eat way more plants if you want to survive and thrive on plants than you eat or than you will have to eat animals. If you see, there's a lot of people comparing us to gorillas and they say, oh, they are strong, they are vegetarians. Well, if you're a gorilla eats 40 pounds of food a day. If you're ready for that, go ahead. I'm not eating 40, 30, 20 pounds of things just to have my nutrients. If you want to have salads, good for you, take it. But don't think you will find a lot of nutrients in lettuce that is 98% water.
Right.
What's the space for nutrients? What you need is nutrient-dense foods that we have been eating our time evolution, and strong people have always eaten.
Yes.
So you eat meat, you eat fish, you eat eggs, you eat cheese, you need nutrient-dense foods, and then you get any other stuff you want around it. But just make sure you prioritize that. It's not that you cannot eat fruits. It's not that you cannot eat veggies. It's not that you cannot eat, beans or corn. Just eat that if it's your culture, and if you want, just make sure you prioritize what is nutrient-dense.
Well,
because
there's a difference between food or fuel, and then what I'll say, experience or engagement. It's like no one's saying don't ever not have some, this. That's like, if 90% of the time this is how you're living and it's clean and it's fueling you, then that 10% of the time you have nothing to worry about. But if you're 50-50 or even worse, 30-70, it's like you're going to have some issues. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out.
I would not be 50-50 in animal food, plant food. I would go at least 70 animal food, 30 plant food. I have been for 5 years now 100% animal food, and I have the best life ever. So I feel great. I had zero problems for anything, energy, bowel movements, everything is perfect. As soon as I eat so plants have always been finding the way to kill animals.
Right.
So the same way, because animals want to kill plants. So plants need to defend themselves from animals.
Right.
So they create systems to just do bad to the animals that eat them, so they remember that they should not eat them. So
yes,
they have roots, right? So they cannot run from animals. So they need to develop chemical weapons, and they do. That's what we call lectins. That is a lot of natural substances that will make you harm, because plants are there for just defend themselves, and not the fruits, just the plants. So if you eat the leaves, the seeds, some roots, that are the parts of the plant that the plant does not want you to eat. The plant will tell you, I'll give you a fruit. Why are you eating my leaves? My leaves are there to just get the sun and give you the fruit. Don't mess with my leaves or I will harm you. Just wait for the fruit. That's what nature is.
Cherries. The pit of a cherry has cyanide in it. The pit, you're not supposed to eat the pit.
Yep.
So, but to your point, I was just thinking about gorillas, and I was my wife and I were in Rwanda in 2023 in May.
Beautiful.
And you get to see these majestic creatures, and they are eating all the time. They're only awake for they sleep the other portion of the time, And the only other time that they're actually up is to be amorous with one another. And so you're like going, okay, that's a heck of a lifestyle. Now, I'm going to remind people of we're vegetarians. And do you know what the average life cycle of a silverback gorilla or a gorilla is? About 55 years.
55.
Yeah. So I want you to think about this. That's an old gorilla, by the way. And so why? Well, to your point, they have a limited amount of food that they eat relative to what their diet will allow them to eat. They're eating copious amounts of food. And so, yes, they peak and they're strong for a period of time. But in their environment, in their social system, it's about who can actually show up and be strong, right? And that's who the leader is. When you are no longer the leader in a troop of gorillas, you are exiled. They don't take care of their own.
And you will probably live less.
And that's why life expectancy. So stress level goes way up. All these different things go way up because now your identity, it's no different than in a human. The difference is that if you practice sound strategies in how you're fueling your body, and you've brought this up so many times, my friend, it's like what you're putting in, hydration, clean water, and sunlight, and sleep. And then the other side of this is being able to actually eliminate waste from your body. And this is where, too, red light therapy, infrared saunas, being able to sweat things out. Too many people are living sedentary lifestyles. And the consequence of that is that we're seeing toxicity build up in people.
Yep. And if you don't want to get cancer, you need to have the things that protect you from cancer. If you don't want to get wet and it's raining, you better have an umbrella. And as soon as you have the umbrella, it can be raining and you will never get wet.
Right.
If you have all the ingredients to have a cancer, but you have red light exposure, which is exposing yourself to the sunlight in the full spectrum of light, and you have vitamin D, and you have melanin, and you have melatonin, you have probably the best cancer protectors that we know of. So you will never get cancer because you have the umbrella. But you blame this and that and certain foods and certain kinds of light bulbs, that certain kind of the modem, the router, the Wi-Fi, the phone, the phone stations.
Right.
You can blame a lot of stuff. Okay. But if you had the red light or the bright light environment, you wouldn't have had cancer, even exposed to the same cancer-causing things.
Yes.
So it's not about just the stressors. It's to be prepared. If you leave your door open at your house and someone steals from your house, it's not that is a lot of thieves outside. It's that you had your door open. So close your door, get a ring, or get some security system, and they will probably go away because they cannot break into your house so easily.
You and I had this conversation once before. We were talking about environment. Start off this conversation, and that there are people who are made to live in certain environments. Like there are some people, if you are Mongolian or you are Nepalese, you have no problem with living up at a very high altitude with low oxygen. Your body's built for that. Conversely, when they come down to sea level, sometimes they will find that they actually have a problem with gaining weight, because not just because of environment, but because of the foods as well. So what grows at altitude at 10,000 feet, 15,000 feet is different than what's growing down here. But to your point, they have mountain goats, yaks, different creatures, oxen that they milk for, and they have for food. There's something that just came to my mind's eye was the frequencies of energy that different environments have. So, and you and I were talking about, like, my wife is from Nicaragua. So if I take her and put her in an uber cold environment, it's probably not going to be as healthy for her because her body and her energy, that frequency that she resonates at. Because every time I take her to a warm place, she is as happy as you can possibly imagine. Right?
It's when you study that, you will realize that we are environmental beings. The same way there are fruits in Nicaragua that will never be in Miami. Even if you bring the tree and you plant the tree in Miami, you will never have that fruit.
Exactly.
Because the environment is the key.
Yes.
But you don't blame the fruit. So if that flower of that tree that you made raise here in Miami, if that is not blooming, you don't blame the flower. You need to understand that it's the environment, not the flower. We medicate ourselves thinking it's our fault.
Right.
We have a fish swimming in a tank that is full of crap, and we medicate the fish instead of cleaning the tank, which is a cause for the fish to get sick. So if we understand that the environment is the key, you will understand why 93% of Americans, and that's a study from Tufts University, 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy.
Right.
More than 9 out of 10. And that is because we need to understand that it's the environment and our habits and not microbes anymore, which causes modern diseases. And we keep blaming saturated fat, and we keep blaming egg yolks, and we keep blaming meat for modern diseases. And if modern diseases were caused by ancient food, then modern diseases would be ancient, not modern. So something new is happening, something new is going on that our body doesn't agree with. And that's why we get sick, but it's the environment. We don't know people that dies anymore from yellow fever or cholera or tuberculosis. We die from modern diseases that are caused by our bad habits and our bad environment. And the same way you have doctors that use medicine to medicate you for disease, we have pharmacists that use drugs to keep you on medications or supplements to make you heal. And then we have nutritionists that use food and supplements to heal you and don't make you sick. But we don't have environmentalists. We don't have habitologists. So we don't have universities on habitology or environmental diseases. Right. We are not trained in understanding the environment and the habits for health. And that is the big problem. That's why people think a pill will just fix them or exercise or stuff like that. And they want to go do a lot of exercise and they go to a gym under blue light with rubber soles, completely separated from the ground, and they get even more sick. Yes. And then the cholesterol levels goes high, and they get medicated for cholesterol, when if they would have done all that exercise in nature, barefoot, under sunlight, cholesterol levels will have been under the limits. You know, that's the problem.
It's beautiful. I just had a recollection. I remember my father grew up in the state of Maine, so Northeast, and so cold area, but he was a track star, and he used to run in the soft sand barefoot every single day.
Like him.
That was his training. So he was grounding, connected to the energy of the earth, and he would run his sprints and his distance running all in the soft sand. And the day before the track meet, barefoot still, he ran on the water line down where the water was more compact, where, you know, the water comes in and then flows back out. And my grandmother made mention, she said, he looked like a gazelle running. All you saw was the toes of his feet grabbing the sand as he was running. That's how fast he was running. And ironically, his state record held for like 25 years before it was broken. Now, my dad's not much taller than me, but I share this with you because yes, he was on a track, he was wearing shoes, but the difference is that the 90% of the time he was running barefoot. And so This is what changed the mindset. When you were just saying that, I was like going, there's this ecology that most people don't even understand from an environmental standpoint. They're not honoring self. They're not honoring what their body needs. And yet people go, oh, I'm living here because it's where the work is. I'm living here because this is what, where my business is. So if I'm going to be in the movie industry, I got to be in Hollywood. If I'm going to be, and this is shifting now. COVID taught us one thing. You can do what you need to do from anywhere. Now, if that is the case, where do you need to be? What is going to feed you, fuel you, and fulfill you? Because I honestly believe that one of the things that's missing is true happiness. True happiness, like honoring self and actually being happy.
Yep. And if somebody is watching that and thinking, okay, what the hell should I do then? So in these couple minutes that we have, I would tell you, okay, wake up in the morning, right before sunrise, take nice clothes, go outside to see the sunrise outside. Don't think that watching the sunrise through a window will give you any health benefit. It won't. So go to the street, go to a park, go to the beach. If you have like we have here in Miami, 20-minute drive to the beach because there's no one driving at 5:30 or 6 a.m. Go to the beach, right. Drive there. You will have an amazing sunrise and it will make a huge difference. So take off your shoes, get grounded and watch the sunrise. Then go back home and have a breakfast full of proteins and fats. Eat eggs with bacon, avocado, anything that you eat a coffee. Drink a coffee. Put a spoon of butter in your coffee. If you don't like coffee and you don't know what to drink, we have a great drink. It's called Nutri Breakfast. It's probably the best breakfast drink in the world. It's MCT, MCT and collagen, and it's great for you in the morning. Even if you cannot eat in the morning, you take that collagen, MCT oil, coconut oil, you get the energy, brain and body that you need. Then you move to the lunch. You did breakfast like 7 or 7:30. You move to the lunch and you take a steak or fish or some eggs with whatever you want to have aside of the meat, fish, and eggs. And then you go for dinner. If you eat dinner, you can always not have dinner. That's what we have been doing for thousands of years. We never had dinner. We went to bed at 6 a.m. At 6 p.m. So which dinner? Now, if you want to have a dinner, just make sure you do dinner before the sunset. So you will have dinner maximum at 5 or 6 p.m. and then you see the sunset and then your night routine should start. So spend time with your kids, spend time with your spouse, brush your teeth, get a shower, and forget about life, forget about your phone, forget about disrupting your life with regular light, forget about, even if you have the light on the phone, you can set up this button for doing 3 clicks and then your screen will turn red. And then you can check your last messages because in red, this will not disrupt your eyes. And then go to bed, measure your sleep. You cannot improve what you're not measuring. There is this Oura ring that has electrodes that can measure your sleep and you will connect actions during the day with results during sleep. And if you do that all the time and you meditate in the morning or at night, you will have a perfect balance between physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. And that's what the body needs.
I love you, brother. Thank you for your wisdom and always being so kind and sharing your knowledge. Really, for all you listeners at home, please look up Dr. G. You need to connect with this man and just understand that your life is yours to craft. I love you, brother. I appreciate you. I'm going to remind all of our viewers tonight that this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. And please check us out on SpanglishWorld.ca for all the news, all the programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, live it.